Hi again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Pro Tips. My name is Dave Dahl. Today I'm going to be demonstrating Martin's technique on restringing a 12-string guitar. Now, for those of you who have a 12-string, you know that this can be kind of difficult, a little bit of a daunting task, but hopefully with me showing you how our technique works, it'll be a little bit easier for you. So the first thing that we have to do is get the old set of strings off. I'm a little bit lucky because I have a mechanical string winder. You can use one of these, you can use a regular hand crank type of string winder, or just use your fingers. Now, the technique that I'm going to be showing you for installing the strings is also beneficial for when you're removing the strings, because the strings will just pop right off of the post. Like so. Now that we have the strings off of all the string posts and off the headstock, the next trick is to get the bridge pins out of the bridge. Now, some string winders have bridge pin removal tools built into them. If you don't have one of those, I use just regular wire cutters, the same cutters that I use to cut the strings. So carefully go underneath and just pull the bridge pins out. So now that the strings are out and off the guitar, this is always a good chance to wipe down the guitar with a soft cloth, clean everything up, maybe go over the fingerboard with some steel wool. You can check out one of my other videos for how to clean and care for your guitar, how to condition the fingerboard. It's also a good idea if you have a guitar with electronics in it at this point to check the battery, because certain guitars have the battery installed inside the sound hole. Again, you can check out one of my other videos that's how to change your battery. But again, with the strings off of it, it's a good idea to think about those other things. So now that we have the guitar ready for new strings, the first thing that we want to do is reinstall the bridge pins. I always like to put the bridge pins in first for two reasons. One, it's convenient because it's one less thing that I have to have in my hands. And two, so I can see how the bridge pins actually fit in the bridge. Make sure that they're all level. Make sure that one isn't sticking up further than the rest of them, or make sure that they don't fall into the bridge and that they're too loose. Today I'll be installing Martin SP 4600s. They're basically our extra light gauge 12-string. So when you open the box, all of our strings are packaged 2 strings per envelope. So there should be 6 envelopes in the box. I'm going to start on the bass side with the low E and its octave string. The high octave strings on many of our 12 strings are always in the front row, with regular thicker gauge strings in the back. So when you're actually installing the strings into the bridge, the octave strings go on the first row, closest to the saddle, and the thicker strings go on the back row. When you're actually installing the strings, again, you're going to make sure that the ball end rolls into the bridge pin hole. You don't want it flat like that where the hole is facing up. Roll in like that, put in the bridge pin, and pull up to make sure that it's locked onto the bridge plate. Show that again with this string. But to make sure again that the ball end rolls into the bridge pin hole, install the pin, and pull up so it's locked on. Now I'm working on the A string. So roll the ball end into the hole, take your bridge pin, put it in, pull up, make sure it's locked into place. So now that we have all the strings installed in the bridge, it's time to get them wrapped around the posts. So there's a couple different options that you can have when you're doing this. Some people like doing all of the octave strings first. Some people like doing all of the regular gauge strings first. Some people like just working on the treble side, bass side. Me personally, I like to start with the high E string and work counterclockwise all the way around the headstock. And if you look up here on the headstock before I go and put the string in, you can notice that I try to have all of the holes on the posts facing towards the nut on an angle, towards the inside of the headstock, kind of making a V. And then I do that just so it's easier to have the string go through and it's already starting to face the direction that I want to start winding. So again, we're going to start by putting the string through the hole, pulling it through. Now you want a little bit of slack to ensure for a good wind on the post. So to do that, we're going to pull to the bass side, and I'm going to take my finger and put it around the first fret. So now I'm going to take the string, go from the outside in, over the inside of the headstock like this, underneath the string, pull it tight against the post, and then go over the top. And I'll even crimp it a little bit. Now doing that technique, you can see I'm pulling on it, and the string's not moving at all. It locks it into place so you don't have string slippage. It'll make the guitar easier to tune. So now moving on to the next string, which is the other high E string in the next row next to the saddle. I'm going to do the same thing. Through the post, a little bit of slack at the first fret, around, underneath, pull it tight, loop it around. So now I'm going to continue on doing all of the strings on the treble side. Okay, now that we have all of the strings on the treble side, you also have the option to wind those or just move on to the bass side. Personally, I like to move on to the bass side and wind everything at once. But before we move on to the bass side, another thing to look at quickly is make sure that the last post on the headstock has the thinnest string on it, the high G string. If that string isn't in that post, then there's a good chance that you've skipped a string. So make sure you look over the guitar now and make sure that that string is the one in the post. So now moving on to the bass side, I'm going to start with the D non-octave string. Again, through the post. Now we're going to go to the exact opposite side. So we're going to be working on the treble side for the slack. So I'm going to take my thumb and again go around the first fret like this. And with my left hand, now I'm going to go again around, outside in, or over the top of the headstock, underneath the string, pull it tight to the post, and loop back around to the inside, locking the string down on the post. Again with the octave string, same thing, through the post, thumb on your first fret, with your left hand outside over the top of the inside of the headstock, underneath the string, pull it tight against the post, and loop towards the inside. So now you can continue on the bass side. So now all that's left to do is tighten the strings. Again, you can do it by hand. If you have a crank winder, you can use that. Lucky me, I have this. Now when you're actually winding the string, no matter what kind of device you're using to actually wind the string, you want to make sure that you keep constant tension with your right hand on the string that you're tightening. Because you want to get a good tight wrap to the post. Again, you want to try to limit string slippage. So when you're winding the string, you want to make sure that the post is going counterclockwise on the bass side. Because you want to always wrap the strings to the inside of the post. So now when you're working on the treble side, I recommend, if you can, leave the guitar in the same position and just work over the top of the guitar. Now you're going to be holding the strings with your left hand and wrapping with your right hand. I'll start with the high G string because now, like I was working counterclockwise with putting the strings on, and winding them, I'm going to work clockwise. Again, hold the string with your left hand to keep constant tension. And on the treble side, the post should wind clockwise, again keeping the string to the inside of the headstock. So now that all the strings are installed, the next thing is to clip them off. Again, any kind of wire cutters that you have. Some pin winders actually have string nippers on them, and those work fine too. When you're clipping the strings, you want to make sure that you get as close to the post as you can, so you don't leave anything sticking out that you could potentially cut yourself on, or that can get caught in the case or gig bag. So again, I like to work, when I'm doing this, counterclockwise from the high E all the way down to the low E. Now that we have all the strings installed on the guitar, all that's left is to tune it up. I hope this video was helpful to you guys.